Welcome to the Bible Forum. It's the last Sunday in January 2021. Are you ready for some common sense? A 26-year-old college student by the name of Alyssa Algren, who's in grad school for her MBA, has a great perspective. She says, and I quote, "My generation is blind to the prosperity around them." She says, "I'm sitting in a small coffee shop near Nokomis, Florida, trying to think of what to write about. I scroll through the news feed on my phone, looking at the latest headlines of presidential candidates calling for policies to fix the so-called injustices of capitalism. I put my phone down, and I continue to look around. I see people talking freely, working on their MacBooks, ordering food they get in an instant, seeing cars go by outside, and it dawns on me. We live in the most privileged time, in the most prosperous nation, and we've become completely blind to it. Vehicles, food, technology, freedom to associate with whomever we choose, things which are so ingrained in our American way of life, we don't give them a second thought. At the same time, there are entire nations of the world where these things either do not exist or they're outlawed. We are so well off here in the United States that our poverty line begins 31 times above the global average. 31 times higher than the global average. That means 30% of the people are below our poverty level. Virtually no one in the United States is considered poor by global standards. Yet in a time where we can order a product off Amazon with one click, have it at our doorstep in 2 or 3 days, we're unappreciative. We're unsatisfied. And we're ungrateful. And if it doesn't fit, or we simply don't like it or want it, we can just ship it back. No cost. We can deliver it now to a local store. No cost. Money is put back in your account. Simple as that. Our unappreciation is evident as the popularity of socialist policies among my generation continues to grow. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently said to Newsweek, talking about the millennial generation, "Here's an entire generation now becoming one of the largest electorates in America, came of age and never saw American prosperity." Never saw American prosperity. Let that sink in. Many young people agree with her, an observation which is entirely misguided. She says, "My generation is being indoctrinated by a mainstream narrative to actually believe we have never seen prosperity." Why then, with all of the overwhelming evidence around us, evidence, she says, I can see sitting here at a coffee shop, do we not view this as prosperity? We have people who are dying to get into our country. People around the world destitute and truly impoverished. Yet we have a younger generation convinced they've never seen prosperity. And as a result, we elect, in some cases, politicians who are dead set on taking steps toward abolishing capitalism. In California, in Washington, Massachusetts, Hawaii, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maryland, New Jersey, Maine. Why? Well, probably the answer is in the fact that my generation has only seen prosperity. We have no contrast, she says. We didn't live through the Great Depression, or 2 world wars, plus a Korean War, or a Vietnam War. Oh, wait a minute, that was not a war. That was operated from Washington, D.C. You didn't know that? Pilots wrote later that they would take off on a bombing mission in Vietnam without knowing where they were going, only on a certain compass heading. And they were waiting for somebody in Washington to tell them where to drop those bombs. And they report having to bomb the same targets 2 and 3 times over a period of years. Why? because we bombed them and then left them, and the enemy rebuilt. That was Vietnam. That's why so many of our young men came home hooked on drugs or other kinds of things, just discouraged. And these young people did see the rise and fall of socialism and communism around the world and its effect. And they said no to it. But today we don't know what it's like to live without the internet, without cars, without smartphones. We don't have a lack of prosperity problem. We have an entitlement problem, an ungratefulness problem, an ignorance problem, and it's spreading like a plague. Why do liberals keep pandering to this mentality? Power, money, greed, arrogance,